Erev Torah Batay. Let's continue with Pirkeh Avot. So we're going to continue, and it says here like this, that Hebe mitchamem keneged oran shel tamidei chachamim. So what does this mean? A person should try to come, and be close to tamidei chachamim. Why is that? Because they give you Torah. So if you want good Torah, you have to go to Talmid Chacham. He's going to give you some good Torah. If you go to somebody who's not Talmid Chacham, his Torah is not so good, because he doesn't know so good the Torah. He's not a professional, amateur, it's not the same thing. He doesn't have the same kind of knowledge. Talmid Chacham, what is Talmid Chacham, by the way? What is that? What does that mean? You know what it means, Talmid Chacham? That means he learns Torah all day. He doesn't have another profession, He's not a doctor, he's not an accountant, he's not a lawyer. All he does all day is learn Torah. That's all he does. Doesn't do nothing else.
He doesn't work, right?
Huh?
Work.
That's his job. He's working for Hashem. You know what I mean? He's working for HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
No family?
Huh?
No wife, no kids?
Of course, you have to get married. He's not a priest. Priests, they don't get married, you understand? We, the rabbis, we get married, Baruch Hashem. Why not get married? Well, for what? You have to do them. He's not a priest, Lo aleinu. Shem yirachem. Yeah, of course, there's time for all the mitzvot, But the Talmid Chacham, that's what it means. That means he learns Torah all day. So because he learns Torah all day, he's always got a lot of Torah, for you. You know what I mean? To give you. He's always got something up his sleeve. He's never empty-handed. You know what I mean? A person like this. He's always got something. So that's the good thing, You need somebody like that who's professional. Professional Torah guy. So, he says, get close to him. So what does that mean? Come to hear his Torah, Come, listen to his Torah. It could be in the Bet Knesset, could be in the yeshiva, could be also, on the phone, right? You get it on, as you said, right? YouTube, Facebook, wherever you get it, you get it. You see some Talmidei Chachamim there, talking over there. You're going to get it, whatever it is, WhatsApp, whatever it is, right? And they're going to give you, but on the other hand, right, comes and tells you, Pirkei Avot, you know what? Come and get the Torah from Talmidei Chachamim. Yeah, it's true. But on the other hand, also, be careful with them, Don't think, you can be with him, chutzpah, or to disgrace him, or to insult him, or disrespect him. Don't do this, You have to be careful. You have to give kavod to Talmidei Chachamim. That's the thing, and don't play games with them, because that's not the person you play games with. You understand? Dangerous. Not a good idea. So, comes and tells you, Pirkei Avot, right, that what's the reason why that you have to be careful with them? So it says, Neshichatam neshichat shu'al. If they bite you, it's like, you get bitten by a fox. Shu'al. So why fox? Maybe it should be more like a lion, or something, Fox, he's a small guy, a small animal, They say, the Chazal, when the fox sees a ben adam, a human, usually he's afraid, and he runs away, He can't fight with the human. He's not big enough, Too small, So he just runs, He's a coward, the fox. So why does it say that the bite of the Talmid Chacham is like a fox? This is not the biggest animal, not the strongest animal. This is the question, right? So you know what the answer is. They say the Chazal, even though the fox is not the strongest animal, but watch out, if it bites you, the bite is very bad. It's not like the bite of a dog, it's worse. Even a dog can be bad, right? Can you imagine, you see these neighborhood, you see these pit bulls over here. They bite you, it hurts, it's very dangerous. It can kill you, these things. Pit bull, but the fox is even worse, in one way. The bite of the fox. Why is that? Because they say, that he has crooked teeth. His teeth are crooked. So when the teeth goes inside you, it goes inside crooked, and it cuts you crooked, inside your flesh.
Like a cobra.
Yeah. Not exactly. There's no eris over there. It's not. There's no venom. You understand? It's not like that. They're not poisonous, but the teeth are crooked. So they go in crooked also. So when you get a bite from a fox, and he bites you really, really good, you have to go, get some stitches because he got you crooked inside your body, Not a good thing, So that's the thing, with the Chacham also. His bite is like the bite of a fox, If he bites you, it's going to be really bad. Watch out, So, what does that mean? What? He's going to come and bite you? What? His teeth? What? He's got teeth? What? What does that mean? That means that he has a way to hurt you, How is he going to hurt you? He can curse you, Lo aleinu. He can put klala on you, or he can also, think about you, some bad thoughts. Even if he thinks about you something bad, he looks at you bad, in a bad way, this can hurt you also. That's why they say, on the one hand, come, hear his Torah, here, listen to his Torah. But don't be a wise guy with the Talmid Chacham, start playing games with him, Hey, wise guy, talking wise things, because if he sees that you're a chatzuf, you're a chutzpah, he's going to do something to you, he's going to hurt you, watch out. Because it's not a game, Talmid Chacham is not a toy. It's not igrushka. It's not, you have to watch out with them. They're dangerous a little bit, So, on the one hand, come get his Torah. On the other hand, treat him with respect. And don't play games with him. Because he can hurt you. That's the thing. That's what it says, And it says, akitzatan, akitzat akrav. And if he stings you, it's like a scorpion, Akrav is a scorpion. Can you imagine a scorpion? Very dangerous, right? Lots of venom, like you said, right? Lots of eres over there. So if he stings you, it's going to be very, very painful, and it could be even deadly. Watch out, They say, that's why it says in the Gemara, look what it says in the Talmud, Masechet Shabbat. It says, right, when the rabbis put their eyes on somebody, either it's going to be for him two things, one or two things, death or poverty. It's going to happen to him, one or the other. Why is this? Because when they look at you, it's not just their eyes, they're looking at you with dinim, because they know all the dinim, they know all the halachot, So if you do something which is chutzpah, chatzuf, they know how to judge you, So they look at you and they say, this guy, he deserves this and this and this. He knows what you deserve. He knows exactly what your recept is, prescription. He knows what's your prescription if you're going to be chatzuf with him, So he's going to punish you. That's what it is, So a person has to watch out. On the one hand, come get the Torah. On the other hand, keep a little distance also, Don't get too close, and don't be a chutzpah, with the rabbi. Don't insult him. Don't embarrass him. Don't disgrace him, and don't play games with him. Not the person you play games with. It's not a good idea. That's what they say. Okay, so there's one more over here, right? They say about this. So they say, they're called divrahem kegachala esh. You know what that means? That their words are like coals of fire, fiery coals of fire. So what does that mean? Since they're always speaking divrei Torah, what do the Chazal say? What is the Torah? Torah is esh, it's fire. That's why when we went to Har Sinai, what was there on Har Sinai? There was esh over there, fire, Why? Because when the Torah comes, the fire also comes. Torah is esh, Torah is fire. So what does that mean? That because they have all the time in their mouth words of Torah, fire is coming out of their mouth. You gotta watch out with that. So you gotta be careful, Don't play games with dangerous, you can get burned. If you get too close, a little bit too much, a little bit too much chutzpah, the rabbi is gonna know what to do with you. Lo aleinu, right? That's why the Chazal say, it says in the Talmud, Masechet Sanhedrin, it says, right, Klalat Chacham ba, afilu im ne'emar bechinam. So what does that mean? If a Chacham curses somebody, it always comes, the curse, no matter what. Even if he said it by mistake. He made a mistake or something, or he said it al tanai, on condition, doesn't matter, So don't bring the rabbi, the Chacham, to curse you, by being a chatzuf with him, speaking with him chutzpah. Because you're going to get into trouble like this, And that means, for sure, if he curses you, it's going to come. It may take some time, by the way, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. You know why? Because a person sometimes has a lot of zechuyot. He has a lot of zechut. So it doesn't come right away. The zechut protects him. But eventually, if the Chacham cursed this guy, it's going to come on him. Lo aleinu, So that's why, another thing, a person has to be careful with Talmid Chachamim. I'll tell you honestly, I personally, when I was with Maran, Rabbi, he was the real Talmid Chacham, what I mean? He was the real thing, the real deal, as they say, right? The real deal. We were, scared, On the one hand, we wanted to be with him, like next to him. Yeah, it's true. But, we were like shivering, like this. Because of the fear, of being with somebody like this. We were scared. But also we wanted to be close to him because we wanted to get his Torah. But you got to be careful also. It's not a game. Not you got to be careful. That's the thing. So a person has to understand that, right? It's one and the other. They're both true. So when it comes to, also it says in the Midrash like this. It says that be careful. With the tzaddikim and be careful with the chachamim, with the Torah scholars. Be careful with them. Don't mess with them. Dangerous. You can't mess with a person like this. Treat them with respect. What did we used to do? We all did this. In the old days. Now today we're in New York. Everybody's chutzpah. Everybody's got their nose like this. And they're speaking chutzpah in New York City. Everybody became chatzuf over here. Everybody became lo aleinu. Not like the Bukharian way. In the old days, right? They used to go like this. The Bukharians, right? Now the younger generation doesn't do that anymore. Now like this, speaking to you. It's not the same Bukharian anymore. The old days was Bukharian. This was the Bukharian. It was a different Bukharian in those days. The older generation, they still have that, the older generation, like the Rabbi, he's from the old school, what I mean? But the new generation, they grew up in New York. It's not the same thing. You gotta be careful with that. It's not the same thing.
It's selfish.
Okay, right? It's not the same thing. Okay, so you get the idea, right? So what's the proper thing to do? If a chacham is a real Talmid chacham, somebody who really knows the Torah. You got to go and kiss his hand. That's what he did, like this, We didn't say nothing. We went and like this, kissed his hand. He would say, right, Shalom Alecha, Rabbi Mori, right? Sam, how are you, my Rabbi? How are you feeling today? That's how we treat Talmid chacham. So why is this? You should know, by the way. What's the reason why you have to treat chacham this way? Because he has Torah, not because his body, is better than your body. He's got more muscles, or he's got more. His brain is better than your brain. It's not the issue. You're not honoring him. You're honoring his Torah. That's what it is. You understand? Has nothing to do with what he is or who he is. He's got Torah. That's what it's all about. Anybody who has Torah, you have to give him kavod. It says in the Zohar Kadosh, anybody who would come, any chacham who would walk by, even a child, if he was Talmid chacham, young guy, right? In those days, even the young kids were like chachamim. They knew Kabbalah, they knew all kinds of things, secrets. The rabbis, if they would hear one word of Torah from him, learn something from him, every time they would see him, they would stand up, get up, to give him kavod, because they learned some Torah from him. That's the way it is, the truth is, In the halakha it says that if a Talmid chacham passes by you, you have to stand up, And not like, a little bit, like this, little bit. No, you have to get up all the way. When you see a Talmid chacham, you got to stand. Where does it say this? In the pasuk, right? It's in this week's parsha, right? Kedoshim, Parshat Kedoshim. What does it say? Right? Vehadarta pnei zaken. You have to, right? Velifnei seva takum. That's what it says in the pasuk. What does that mean? When you see a Talmid chacham elder, right? You have to stand up before in front of him. Even if he's young, by the way, even if he's 18 years old, there are some young Talmidei Chachamim like this, 18 years old, he's already big chacham. There are sometimes things like this. It doesn't matter how old he is. He's a teenager, but because of his Torah, you have to stand up. When you see him. That's the way it is, You have to give kavod to the Torah. That's what it's all about, So every way, a person has to be careful about Talmidei Chachamim, to give them the proper kavod, to give them the proper, but all at the same time also, yeah, you got to be afraid, that he's gonna, he may do something to you if you're gonna be a chatzuf. But at the same time, you got to get his Torah because you need the Torah from him, So listen to his Torah, and then come, and sit, and listen, everything, everything he has to say, soak it up, soak up everything. Doesn't matter. You like him, you don't like him. Doesn't matter. It's not personal. It's his Torah you're looking for, not for him. He's not your cousin. You know what I mean? You have to like him. You have to. What it has to do with that? Has nothing to do with that, right? The fact that he's a Talmid chacham, you got to come and get his Torah. So that's the thing, A person has to be careful about that, to absorb the Torah, from the Talmid chachamim. At the same time, to be careful, right, not to insult them and disgrace them. Baruch Adonai le'olam, amen ve'amen. Rabbi Chanin kashaber, רצה הקדוש ברוך הוא לעזור לישראל, לפיכך הרבה להם תורה ומצוות שאיננו מונה חפץ, למען צדקו יגדיל תורה וידיר.